Looks a bit different than my apartment in Berlin. It's not a green screen. I actually have relocated, which I'll share a bit about in this video. So I started doing these videos because I wanted to share my experiences of being a Black woman living in Berlin. If you've been watching, thank you so much. I watched the first video not too long ago and it's like cringeworthy. You can watch it, it's only a couple minutes long. But if you've subscribed to my channel as well to follow my story, thank you so much. If you're not subscribed yet, I'll wait. Okay, perfect. So, like I said, I wanted to share my experience about being a Black woman living in Berlin. I received a lot of comments and messages on Instagram or inquiries through Facebook even about life in Berlin. Some people who wanted to visit and had questions about where to go, or people who were thinking about moving there. So even though I'm not currently there, I'm still open for questions. But when I moved to Berlin, if you watch this first video, you'll see like the excitement in my face. I was just so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and so eager to live there. And it's because I wanted a change. I was looking for a place where I could be myself and explore the things that I wanted to do without feeling ashamed or embarrassed. If you are from the US, you might sympathize. It's quite an egocentric place, but also I think, especially where I was in Maryland and in the DC area, it's a lot about status. It's a lot about what you have, who you are, what kind of degree you have, how long you've been doing something, who you know. And I really didn't connect with this way of being. And in Berlin, it's a much more independent city, creative city, and it's not so much about what you have, what kind of car you drive, what kind of watch you wear. I mean, you have some parts of Berlin that may be like this, but a lot of it is really simplistic. And I found that there was a huge creative community that was really supportive. I met so many amazing people who allowed me to read my writing, who supported me, who encouraged me. And even though I didn't have some fancy degree from some school and I didn't have dozens of years of experience, I was afforded the opportunity to start out in unpaid internships as a writer, paid internships, and then I went on to work full time. And while I grew personally and professionally, I was able to publish my second book, Recovering Loveaholic. It emulates my life story. So this woman moves from the US to Berlin, and she's in love with love. You know, she's grown up on fairy tales and romantic stories on TV and in movies, and she's looking for her own fairy tale. You know, she wants this modern day love story, but instead she's faced with the modern day dating culture of swiping for hookups, being ghosted, casual sex, open relationships. So she's having a hard time figuring out if maybe she's going about it the wrong way or she's just living in the wrong time. So yeah, I hope you're able to check that out. But while I grew professionally, I also grew personally. I was able to try a lot of things that I never thought I would try, that I never thought I would be into, and I even ended up liking them. I met people from all over the world. I learned so much about other cultures. I realized how small I was. So living in the US, it almost seems like the world stops at the US. You know, this is what we're taught in our history classes. This is what our narrative and our media sometimes makes us feel like it's the greatest country in the world. And while every country has its ups and downs, it's not the only country in the world. So I'm so grateful that I've been able to travel the world and have experiences with people, realize the shortcomings of the place that I came from. Obviously, I'm aware of them, that's why I left. And a lot of the reasons that drove me out of the US pushed me towards another place. So I ended up in Berlin. I grew professionally, personally. I met some amazing people. I had some really great experiences. I tried so many new things, but I just felt like my time there had kind of plateaued. I got to a certain level and I couldn't seem to get past it. And I always felt like it was my home, but I didn't necessarily feel like the city wanted me if that makes sense. And it really took a toll on me. Not only that, but going through 4 Berlin winters where it's rainy, gray, dark. You have like 5 hours of sunlight, and that sunlight is covered by clouds. The people weren't as friendly. You know, I would always hear that Americans are superficial. We're so friendly at first. We're like, hey, like, how are you? Let's be friends. And then we disappear. And in Germany, I found like it was like trying to get into the Illuminati to get into a German friend group. It was impossible. Even if you had a reference, even if you had an in, you weren't getting into these friend groups. These are people who've been friends from high school, kindergarten, diapers. They don't know you. They don't want to know you. So all of my friends were international. Some of them were German, but they also were people who love to travel and love to explore. So they had that going for them. But I really desired a place not only with warm weather, but warm people, and a place where I felt like I could settle and be a grown-up. I feel like in Berlin, people experience this Peter Pan syndrome where they basically don't want to grow up. You know, you don't have to. The city doesn't force you. If you just want to party all the time, you are able to do that. And that's the great thing about the city, but it's also sometimes a downside. I loved how carefree and the city was, but sometimes it's a bit careless, you know? Sometimes it's a bit impersonal. People don't smile at you on the street. If you do, they're like, what's wrong with you? And so I wrote a bit about how I discovered Tenerife, which is where I am now. My trip was canceled that I had planned to go to the continent of Africa. It was my first time and I didn't get to go, but I was desperately in need of somewhere warm. And if you're not familiar with Tenerife, it's in the Canaries. It's a part of Spain, but it's an autonomous community off of the coast of the Sahara. So I was like, that's probably as close as I'm gonna get to Africa at this point because my passport had gone missing. So I came here. It was a stressful week of trying to figure out like if I could salvage my trip, which I couldn't. My passport was missing. I had lost out on so much money, and I still was like, I can't just sit at home. I can't do it. I won't allow myself to sit here and just like be pitiful, and I'm definitely not going back to work early. So I found Tenerife. I got here, realized my hotel had been canceled because the company I booked with went bankrupt. So I didn't have a place to stay. But I was still so excited. I was just like so relieved. It just felt like a hug when I arrived here. The people were nice. When you walk down the street, when you go into shops, you hear buenas. It's like a song, music to my ears. Buenas. People greet you. And it's like in the US, but a completely different culture, completely different landscape. And so even though I got here, and I didn't have a place to stay. I had just lost out on so much money. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make the most of this trip. With the support of a friend, I was like, doesn't matter. I'm here. I'm so blessed that I'm able to travel and I was able to go somewhere else, even though my trip got canceled. And I was amazed by what I saw after I found another place to stay. You know, you have mountains, you have a volcano, you have black beaches, you have a city of Santa Cruz, you're surrounded by water. There's so much for you to do. There's tons of surfers in the south. And I was blown away. Not just visually, but by the people, by the warmth, by the friendliness. Even if people didn't speak English, they were so nice, they were so helpful, unlike in Berlin. So while my chapter was ending in Berlin, I found a new home. I moved just before the island got locked down. I don't recommend relocating when you can't move or go anywhere or meet people or explore your new home. But you know what? In due time, I will be able to go out and hopefully I will be able to provide you with some recommendations about the island. If you've never been, I definitely recommend it. And even though I'm not in Berlin, I'm also available to answer any questions. I really enjoy the conversation that posting these videos creates. Like I always say, it's not one-sided. So you can reach out to me on Instagram, on Facebook. I also have a website where you can find out more about my book if you're interested. And everything is under my name, Sarita Braxton. So Sarita Braxton on Instagram, on Facebook, and saritabraxton.com for my book. So thanks again for watching and following along with my story. If you have been, or if not, welcome to these rants and conversation starters. Yeah, and I hope to post more content and show you more of this beautiful place. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next time.